De retour à Webcom Live, je vous dis tout de suite que la prochaine entrevue, je vais la faire en anglais. Elle porte sur la conférence La sagesse des foules se rend dans l'espace, une étude de cas Innocentive et NASA. J'ai avec moi Cynthia Rando, hi.
Hi.
Et Jennifer Fogarty, hi.
Hello.
Deux femmes qui ont donc travaillé sur ce projet, collaboration de la NASA. En anglais, et je vais maintenant parler en anglais, faire l'entrevue en anglais. The Wisdom of the Crowd Goes to Space, an Innocentive Case Study and Panel Discussion. Before we discuss the contents of your conference, please let us know who you are and what you do. Jennifer, I will start with you.
Well, I'm Jennifer Fogarty from NASA Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. I work in the Space Life Sciences Directorate, and I'm the innovation lead for our directorate. So my job is to go out and find platforms where we can pursue open innovation, which would include crowdsourcing, collaboration building, and even internal collaboration.
All right. And Cynthia, tell us who you are and what you do.
Hello, I'm Cynthia Rando. I work for Wiley, which is a contractor that supports NASA Space Life Sciences, and I work with Jennifer. And along with Jennifer, I help to implement these novel strategies to open innovation and utilize these tools and platforms such as crowdsourcing, network consortium builders.
Okay. So let us know now, what is the added value of crowdsourcing for an institution like NASA, who probably has a lot of brain inside its walls, public funding, money, everything. Why do you need to go outside? How does that work?
Okay. Well, even though we do have a relatively large budget, it is reduced pretty much annually. So we're definitely facing constraints on a regular basis. We also can't hire all experts in all fields all the time, right? It's just not practical, even for the largest of corporations. So we realized through a series of different exposures to what open innovation was that we really could leverage off of global expertise when we needed it, and benefit from the wisdom of the crowd and the community globally by using platforms such as Innocentive or Yet to Come or Topcoder. There's a variety of different tools we could use that give us a breadth and depth of expertise when we post any given problem or need in that type of forum, depending on the type of solver network any one of those hosts may have.
Oh, sorry. I was just also going to add, in addition to what Jennifer mentioned, and also using our resources more efficiently and solving our toughest problems, there's a softer why. It's reaching out to the public, getting them engaged in what NASA does. Not everybody can be a NASA employee, and it's sort of part of the American dream. So maybe this gives them an opportunity now to participate in some way or fashion with NASA.
All right. So let me get a grasp of how this works. Give me examples. Let's start with the platform. How does that platform work? What is the Innocentive platform?
Innocentive is a company that has a network of about 250,000 solvers worldwide. So it's a web-based platform, and NASA has what's called a pavilion where we can advertise our challenges. So they also are a service company in that they helped us do challenge development. It's a particular way of articulating a technical problem that you may have that elevates it to a level where you can get as many disciplines as possible to look at it and potentially offer you a solution. So it really increases the diversity of the type of experts that would be looking at your problem at any one time. During the challenge post period, which could be anywhere from 30 to 90 days, that's when the audience has the opportunity to go in, learn more about the challenge, and actually start to formulate a solution. At some point toward the end of the challenge, they actually can formally submit the solution. And when the challenge closes, those solutions are then provided back to NASA so we can evaluate them based on the requirements that we set out in the original challenge.
And what is the benefit for people who decide to work with you guys, because they will spend time and energy helping NASA solve problems? So what's the return? How do they benefit?
Well, there is a financial award associated with each of the challenges, and there's a range depending on the complexity of the challenge you post. So particularly for Innocentive, they could have ideation, theoretical, or a reduction of practice challenges, with them getting more complicated from the ideation to the reduction of practice. So with each challenge type, you're asking more of an investment on the solver side, so your award would be commensurate with that expectation of investment. So that's just very factual, but I think Cynthia can talk to the intangibles of maybe what the solvers get.
Right, and additionally, from the solvers' perspective, and this is directly from their feedback to us, they think the world of NASA, just as a global figure, and they also feel honored that they get to submit, a potential solution to NASA to help them solve the problem, but also having our experts review their work and provide them feedback is also very valuable to them.
What kind of problems? Give me an example of a dialogue you've had with people from outside.
We actually wanted to test out a breadth and depth of different types of challenges, so we didn't limit the scope. So one of our technical challenges was asking for an exercise device that could work in microgravity, which is close to zero. It's not quite zero, but very close, in a very limited volume and mass constraint, meaning that we were looking at a type of equipment to produce for, say, an exploration type mission where the vehicle would be very small. Therefore, you may only get 1 cubic meter of space in order to fit this device, and it would have to impart loads that could challenge people who ranged in a certain size. So maybe you were looking at either watts of power it could generate or loads of torque. In order to give a person both an aerobic and resistive exercise experience. So the challenge was very technical. It was very mechanically engineered driven, but yet, and NASA has done, in collaboration with a variety of other entities, development of exercise hardware, but it tends to be very large and at times power hungry. So this device essentially had to be autonomous from the vehicle. It could not derive power from the vehicle. It had to be self-powered. So there were a lot of constraints that were obviously not terrestrially imparted. We have usually lots of access to power in space and a variety of other things that we don't on a space vehicle. So it was very unique to us. We did go out with that challenge and had an interesting solution come in with a very new perspective, and it wasn't so much that the components were new to us, but the arrangements of the components were very unique. I think Cindy might want to add about what the solver brought to the table.
From the perspective of solvers, sometimes they bring a broad and diverse background as well. They may have expertise in a certain area, but collectively, it's like jack of all trades, master of none. They bring together a suite that we don't necessarily have in any one pocket of information where the problem generated. So that helps us there, extending the resource reach, so to speak.
Which partly answers my question on who these people are who decide to work with you, because my first thought about it would be experts from universities, teachers, people who do research, people who are in their own field directly involved in that kind of a problem. Of course, you will get these people, I guess.
Sure. I think that there are all of the above and then some. There are people who have full-time jobs sometimes that do this as, on the side, or there are people that do this as just their main job. And then you have people who are part of universities and researchers that come to the table as well. I mean, we don't know exactly each and every single one, but we do know that they basically represent the scope of all pockets of information.
So in this challenge in particular, the individual was an engineer and had familiarity with vacuum canisters and flywheels and knew those principles, but had not worked directly with exercise equipment. So his perspective on using those tools together to generate the loads we were looking for in the confined space was really unique. And we feel a lot of times that the diversity of backgrounds that come to the table don't bring the normal biases that have kind of trapped us in our normal thought processes. These people, based on their unique background, careers, are outside of the box just to begin with. So it's quite a unique relationship.
And what's the long-term plan for such a program of crowdsourcing for NASA? Is this a short-term experiment? We'll do it. We'll see how it works. If it works, then we'll talk about it, and we'll see about prolonging the program. Is it short-term or more of a longer-term thing?
What we presented here at WebCom was about the short-term pilot that really laid the groundwork to allow us to have the rationale to move forward into a long-term plan of bringing crowdsourcing into an infrastructure. So it's in a toolkit for anyone with a project or a problem to come forward and say, what can I bring to bear on this problem? What are the different ways I can solve this problem? So the expectation is the pilot worked out very well, got a lot of interesting results, interacted with a broader audience than we ever thought possible. It was very successful, and now we can move forward with a much longer term implementation of it.
So basically, you guys are happy about how things worked.
Yeah, it was very successful, and it's really been in sync with a lot of what the new administration has brought to the table, which has been recognized, open government initiatives. So it's garnered a lot of attention, and I think allowed other parts of the federal community to say, I think we can do this. I think we can try this. It's very doable, and it's been a bit precedent setting. So we were really engaged in the process. We had great advocacy from our boss, Dr. Jeff Davis, within the Space Life Science Directorate. He's really been a champion for these efforts. And, I think we've brought to the table a success that shows there is sustainability with this type of process within the federal government.
Yeah. And deeply rooted in the Web 2.0 spirit,
yes.
which we're talking about today here
yes,
at this
very much
conference. So. Yeah. So Jennifer Fogarty and Cynthia Rando, thank you very much for this few minutes of talk.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.